In the words of the late George Carlin, BS is the glue that binds us together as a nation. Here comes a ton of it. It's time for BSing with Big Nate.
Welcome into another edition of BSing with Big Nate. I'm Big Nate. We're having some fun this weekend and talking to a lot of musicians. That's the focus I want to go on because the world's got enough bad crap in it. Let's talk about the good stuff. Joined today by Seven of Seven Factor and Human Factors Lab. How you doing, Seven?
Good. How you doing?
I could complain. Wouldn't do any good. I'm having some fun. I'm glad to be talking to you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
What have you been working on? What are you up to lately?
Working on a lot of stuff actually. So yeah, I think I kind of mentioned this a little bit before the interview started, but I brought my band Human Factors Lab kind of out of hiatus. I put it on hold in around 2012 and just now bringing it back. There was some branding issues kind of going on there for a minute where, I started the band 2002 and then we kind of did local Florida thing till around 2006 and then started touring extensively from, 2006 right up till 2012. And, we did a lot of our own tours, also did supporting for other bands, Mushroom Head and KMFDM and a few other bands that we were out there doing. And it got to a point where I felt boxed in. I wanted to try something new. And so I put that to rest and formed Seven Factor as a band. And we immediately went on tour with KMFDM again, as the new band. And then right afterwards, I left Florida. I came to LA and the band, we didn't really do much. We had a lot of stuff go on, a lot of things go on inside the band. So we didn't, it turned more into a multimedia art project than a band.
Yeah. That's exactly what it turned into, which I love.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a full immersive experience. You'd get text messages, Snapchats, like everything. You kind of felt like you were a part of something.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it became. And so our social media took off really quickly. We went from, within a period of just a few months, we went from a few thousand followers to within 6 months, we were at a million. And a lot of that, it kind of created this thing where we were a band, but we were also doing a lot of the outside of the box art stuff, through video, like you mentioned, text messaging, Snapchat, various social media, a lot of other elements we were experimenting with. And we created this thing where half of our followers knew we were an art project and had no idea we were a band. The other half knew we were a band and had no idea why we were posting all this weird, creepy shit. So,
it definitely was a head scratcher for some people. And like, I had talked to you throughout all of it and you kind of told me what was coming up. And
yeah,
I was thrilled with the execution of it. And to me, something like that, when it's mysterious like that, it's a lot of fun to watch people who aren't like fully in the know get confused. And that was something that always like stood out to me. On the social media side, you also had some interesting things happen where impersonators. You had imposters showing up as Seven Factor on Facebook. That's still going on?
That's still a very active thing. There's a lot of fake pages, a lot of people impersonating me directly or Seven Factor as a brand. That's a thing.
That's so bizarre.
I think I was frustrated at first, but I think that I don't want to say, when bands get big or popular, but I think for sure anyone, when you're reaching a certain number of people through social media, you're going to have kind of two different things happen with the impersonators. You'll have people that genuinely appreciate and they're fans and they just kind of want to take on elements of that as their own because it speaks to them in a certain way. Or you have like the internet trolls or people that just have their own issues going on, and they do it for malicious reasons, and so we've encountered both at length.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've ended up in some of these things just like that. There's a group on Facebook. It's called 7 Factor Fans, and it's FAN''S.
Yes. Yeah, that one was, so that was actually made. I know who made that one, and he is a fan, and he's just somebody who's been supportive. And he'd initially called the group 7 Factor, and he kept reaching out to us. And so I was like, well, dude, he was even like, oh, should I delete the group? And I was like, no, keep it. Just say it's fans so people know it's not us running it. We don't run any Facebook groups, but there's a dozen of them up there.
That's what I wondered, because I remember, like I said, I mean, I had conversations with you about it in the past, and that's what I wondered, is if that one, because one of the things you ran into is the people trying to impersonate you weren't kind of negative, kind of got bad at some points. And
yeah, we had some, I was dealing with some stalkers and stuff, and some pretty disturbed people.
It's just weird. Sure. But so 7 Factor Fans is legit. That's good to know.
Yeah, that's not run by us, but yeah. I totally endorse that, and there's good people that are in there. But yeah, so it got to a point where with the branding, I really needed to just kind of make a choice, and I decided to go with 7 Factor still exists, but it's not a music project. It's not a band. Even though we did do one tour under that moniker, it's just an art project at this point. It's a immersive multimedia art project. And I don't really go much more into it other than that. There's a lot of elements to it. But yeah, that's what that is. And then so it made sense to bring back Human Factors Lab as the musical channel. So they're two separate entities at that point.
I like that. It makes it so you can track everything, knowing Human Factors Lab, the music, 7 Factor, the art project. Yeah, Human Factors Lab was where you and I originally kind of got connected, was with your tour with Mushroom Head, and that's kind of where I fell into the scene. So it's intriguing that there was kind of a bit of a hiatus there. What is it looking like going forward? Like, where are you at in that process of reactivating?
Yeah, so we're in part of this whole major rebranding thing we went through. We're rebranding it just as HFL, because Human Factors Lab is a mouthful. So we're doing it just as HFL, and we have 4 songs in the works. It's really just kind of me, but I'm collaborating with some people that I've worked with in the past, and people that I'm, friends and associates of mine. So I have a good friend of mine, Nero Bellum from Cyclone 9. So him and I are collaborating on, he's lending some of his synthesized, textures and some of the modular stuff he does. He has a very unique talent of just creating some amazing sounds and very distinctive. So I wanted to get some of that element involved. And Nero's been doing a lot of work with Tim Skold. And so through him, was able to actually get Skold involved as well. So Skold did guitars on the 4 songs that we have written right now. And I'm also working with Chris Verena again. He's going to be producing and mixing it. And so that's kind of where we are right now.
That's pretty killer stuff. Nero's a great guy. I love the Cyclone 9 stuff. And I mean, you can't get much more prestigious than Skold and Chris Verena also being involved. So you do a lot of music, but you do a lot of other stuff as well. Of course, it seems like you are always busy working on something. You're either shooting video or you're in the studio doing something. So like, what all have you got going on right now?
I mean, constantly working is, outside of my own music, I work professionally as an audio engineer, music producer, sound designer. I work with a lot of other people in various projects. And then video wise, I do a lot of photography, I do a lot of videography. And with the, here in Los Angeles, we've been having riots, as you may have seen, everywhere, all over the city. And there's a lot of people that want their voice to be heard, and they're out there. And I've seen a lot of riots on TV, but personally, I've seen a lot of very peaceful protests of people that are very passionate, and they have something to say, and they want to be heard, and so they're out there doing that.
And that's intriguing. I'm glad I've seen a lot of the stuff you've posted, and it's telling, it's powerful. But yeah, I've kind of noticed that same thing is like what you do see on TV is the riots, the looting. But in actuality, from everything I've seen, social media, the circles I'm involved with, is the people who are allegedly rioting are actually doing a great job of policing themselves. And
sure,
it seems like they're being misrepresented and turned into villains. There's definitely a lot of passion here, and it does have a chance to reach a fever pitch at times. Do you, when you're out covering this stuff, like is there a lot of nervousness in your gut, or are you kind of like, oh, what happens?
I mean, I'll tell you what, the events I've been involved in, like I was involved in one that started off in Hollywood, very peaceful, very organized, and the organizers made it a point, like, this is a peaceful protest. And the people that were really involved in that, it started at a park, and everybody was on the same page. It marched over to another area, and other people that weren't part of the group joined, and they brought that violent element, and it turned extremely violent. There was about 15 police cars that were set on fire, and that situation very quickly turned from very calm to very dangerous, and it was amazing how fast that happened. There was another one I was involved in. They were actually in front of the mayor's house, and there was about at least 1,000 people sitting in front of the mayor's house in the street. And one thing I really took away from that is that, we're in this fairly affluent neighborhood. Cars can't get through. The people that live there have people yelling and honking, and there's all this noise of thousands of people trying to be heard outside their houses. And they're bringing them water, and they're shaking their hands, and they're saying thank you. They're not, why are you in my neighborhood, or anything like that. I saw these little girls pick wildflowers from their garden and bring it to the people that were in front of their house. It's over and over. I've seen the one thing that stood out to me the most was there's this really strong sense of community. Everybody's supporting each other. Everybody's united with this message, and cars are honking as people go by, as they drive by, just to, hey, we're a community. We're in this together. And it isn't one group of people. It's everybody. It's from different races, cultures, socioeconomic backgrounds. Everybody all on the same page. So the one thing I've seen more than anything is people really united. And a good friend of mine, we went to one of the downtown, the downtown ones have been a little bit worse as far as the violence. We went there, and we started at City Hall, and they marched from there down through the streets of downtown. And downtown LA looks like the downtown of a lot of cities, like New York or a lot of major cities, where there are very tall buildings that are apartments or businesses, but there's, as we walk, people that are 20 stories up even are banging on pots and showing support. It was this overwhelmingly good, positive vibe, which is not what I thought walking into it. Going into that with a camera, it's like, wow, am I going to be beaten up by supporters? Am I going to be maced? Am I going to be tear gassed or shot with rubber bullets, or you don't know.
Yeah.
Really, really positive until we got to one area where you couldn't see too far in front of you. There's so many people. But I remember looking at my friend, I said, wow, the vibe has really changed all of a sudden. Like, you could feel in the air something was different, and we didn't know what. And almost as soon as I said that, we both got knocked to the ground by LAPD. And there was a National Guard with a troop transport, big camouflage kind of army truck sitting there. And I guess we didn't know it, but we were on the sidewalk, and that was too close to their truck, and they were hitting everybody on the sidewalk with batons. And you could feel that energy that was brought in by the LAPD at that moment. And it went from unity to, kind of an us against them on each side. interesting experience.
That I gotta ask, and I hate to dwell on it. For someone like you, how does that feel to all of a sudden you're knocked on your ass, as it were, by the LAPD? Because I know you're someone who is trained pretty extensively in martial arts, and
Yep.
What is your gut feeling? Like, what's your reaction in that moment?
Honestly, my reaction in that moment is like at one of the protests, my tires got slashed, right? It's real easy to take being pushed to the ground or having your tires slashed as a personal attack. But for me, I have to take myself out of that emotional response and realize like this isn't about me. This isn't targeted at me. I'm not, it wasn't an attack on me. And I kind of took I felt it was unnecessary for the LAPD to react that way, but I didn't take it personally against me. I just happened to be standing there, and I think also my direct experience is the LAPD has been in over their head. I don't think their officers are trained for this. I don't think mentally they're aware. The ones I saw, I posted video of one guy who had a loaded shotgun, not rubber bullets, but lethal shotgun. And the guy was so nervous, he had his finger on the trigger and he's waving that thing around. No trigger discipline or anything. And I was concerned just on accident. If somebody set off a firecracker and startled him, somebody would have been shot,
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that happens fairly regularly is that startle reaction.
Yeah. So for me, I wasn't mad that I got pushed down. It just it was a reminder to be very aware that I was in the middle of an extremely volatile situation that could go off at any time,
That's a good mentality to have. That's keeping calm under pressure. And I appreciate all the things I've seen you post from it. It's
Oh, thanks, man.
I mean, here in Southwest Virginia, we don't have a whole lot of that. So it's nice to have, we get the TV where we see everything being violent and the various portrayals of it. So it's nice to actually know someone who's there and covering it and kind of not having that skewed. So I for one, I can't speak for everybody. I am very appreciative that you're out there covering all this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the music side because that was the heavy for today.
Right.
So you've toured with Mushroomhead, KMFDM. You've done a lot of shows.
Yeah.
What's the best live act you've seen or toured with?
Live act I've seen, I think we talked about you wearing the Ghost shirt. I know there's a lot of split opinions on this, but I think as far as a live show, Ghost is one of the best ones I've seen. Also, Skinny Puppy, I think, is really one of the best live shows I've seen. It's always very elaborate and always different. And not just visually, but sonically, they bring it 110% every time, Mushroomhead would be another one. I think, again, musically and visually, they bring a show and it's different. Those guys, there's a lot of talent, a lot of time and energy put into what they do. And I think that reflects not only in their stage shows, but their music videos are like movies, they're really great.
All right. I haven't seen Skinny Puppy, and it's actually something that to this day bothers me. I had the opportunity to go see them in Seattle and I ended up having to miss that. But
you should definitely go see them next time anybody tours.
Yeah, next time anyone tours. Hugely on my bucket list is Skinny Puppy. But I mean, I do have to say this because I know you're the type of person who's not going to say it, but Human Factors Lab, the energy there, fantastic. Like I said, I mean, it was something that stuck out to me, and you were opening for Mushroomhead, who you put on your list. So that's saying something because Mushroomhead does have that incredible stage show, that presence.
Sure.
Of course, that was several iterations ago, and I've seen everything except for the current lineup. Always a solid show. Yeah. Always an incredible show. And to have Human Factors Lab come out there with that same energy and not necessarily blow them off the stage, but to be comparable, I think is a testament to what Human Factors Lab can do. And I'm looking forward to the future
Well,
So
appreciate it. Thank you.
with that, where can they hear Human Factor Stuff? Where can they interact with you and everything you got going on? Of course, 7Factor as well.
Yeah, I mean, HFL, we have our social media up on Instagram and Facebook and our main website and stuff. It's pretty quiet there right now because we are, even though I announced that we're coming out of hiatus, we haven't really started to get that machine rolling yet until the new music and the new videos come out. And you know, our old catalog is up everywhere you can get music, but the newer stuff it's going in a little bit of a different direction musically. You know, I've been doing it for a while now, and I think any artist, you kind of evolve as you go, and that's kind of where we're at. Where it's before we were very much on the industrial metal spectrum, very aggressive guitars and, you know, very aggressive vocals, and we always joked that when we toured with metal bands, we were the industrial guys because we had the keyboards and all the synthesizers, and then if we played with any industrial bands, we were the metal guys, you know. So we always kind of walked that line, but we're definitely going more, I don't want to say commercial or mainstream, but I would say more palatable to the masses, if you will, not so niche with the, you know, with the aggressive styling. So some more melodic vocals, a lot more electronic bass, but of course having Scold on guitars, he has a very unique style of playing, and it sounds like Scold, you know, playing guitar. So it's kind of hard not to have that element. But yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be a positive change, at least as far as how it's perceived by the fans.
Excellent. Well, we'll keep our eyes out, excited to see new stuff. And thank you so much for joining me today, Seven.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.